Growing outrage over the controversial front page of the New York Daily News, the paper mocking the tweets of Republican presidential candidates asking for prayers in light of the mass murders in California. Now, the paper displaying many of the candidates' tweets with this giant headline, "God isn't fixing this." Former CEO of Hewlett-Packard and 2016 GOP presidential candidate Carly Fiorina goes on the record. And welcome to D.C. I know you've been in Iowa, New Hampshire, and every place else, so welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
What do you make of this New York Daily News page?
We have to take our country back. We have to restore the character of our nation. I mean, honestly, this is unbelievable. And when you read the article, it goes on to say that the people who pray for our victims and our first responders are part of the problem. It's just outrageous. The same paper said that I was the problem behind the Planned Parenthood shooting because I have exposed the truth about what Planned Parenthood does. This is what the left wing does. It's outrageous.
Well, at the very least, on day one, they ought to be looking at the killers.
Yes, they ought to.
I mean, that would be the first.
Well, but Hillary Clinton, remember when she was asked about enemies she's proud of, who was first on her list? Republicans.
I thought she was being flipped.
Oh, I think they think the enemy were conservatives and Republicans who might pray after a terrorist attack.
I don't think they were being flipped. I don't think
No, they're not being flipped.
No, I thought the New York Daily News was not being flipped. All right, what would you do? I mean, we've had all these shootings. We've had Colorado. We've had many other shootings, Sandy Hook. We've had a lot of mass shootings in this country. Well,
let us begin by enforcing the laws we have. We have a whole list of criminals who are not supposed to own firearms, and we know they do. And we prosecute less than 1% of them. Yes, exactly. Here we have a situation where, I mean, the details are unclear, but for heaven's sakes, they're building bombs in their home. They had been inspected for possible ties to terrorists earlier. It sort of sounds a lot like the Tsarnaev brothers case, where we actually knew something was wrong. Somebody investigated them at some point, but didn't really do anything about it. This is why I think our FBI director said a couple weeks ago, even before the Paris attacks, that the FBI was, quote, overwhelmed by the number of possible terrorists already in this country. They couldn't keep up. And yet President Obama says that any of us who say that maybe we shouldn't be letting more would-be terrorists in if we cannot vet refugees, for example, he says we're providing a recruitment tool to the terrorists. All right.
One other thing that I would say is sort of circle back on that is I think we have to stop being afraid of being called a racist. Apparently, if you see something, you should say something. And apparently one woman did see the bomb factor, see something suspicious, and didn't say anything, which I can understand. But the problem is that we do have to step up and not be afraid if we see something.
Well, this is the cost of people being shouted down because they express an opinion that the left wing doesn't like. This is what happens. People stop talking. And we cannot stop talking. We can't stop speaking the truth, and we can't stop saying something if we see something. But that's the cost when people demonize a messenger because they don't like the message.
If you see someone buying 5 pressure cookers, say something. All right, you have a new blueprint, your first year in office, and you've got a whole list of things that you're going to do. What's top of the list?
I've laid out 6 things that I think are vital to get done early on in the first term of my administration to take our country back. It involves defeating ISIS and leading once again in the world. It involves restoring the character of our nation by standing for life and religious liberty. It involves enforcing a pro-American immigration system. It involves rolling back the worst aspects of crony capitalism, of which Obamacare is #1, and involves, most importantly, getting to zero-based budgeting so we can examine every dollar, cut any dollar, move any dollar, and taking that 73,000-page tax code down to 3 pages.
And just to add, the zero-based budgeting is that if we can figure out how to get rid of some of this waste and fraud in the government, we can pay for more law enforcement or some of the other things that might protect us anyway.
But it's also, you know, it's also true that we have more IRS personnel today because of that 73,000-page tax code than we do CIA and FBI combined. Does that strike you as a misallocation of resources? I think so.
Don't get me started. Anyway, Carly Fiorina, welcome to Washington. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Greta.